There's been a few Messiah figures that have come up in Judaism through the years. Most have been forgotten, most were flash in the pan. But one of, if not the most famous Messiah, came in the modern age in 1666. And while today this person, Sabbatai Sevi, is mostly dismissed, tied to stories about him marrying a Torah or dressing a fish up as a baby, which both happened, at the time this movement was thought by many to be the future of Judaism and the dawning of a new age. This is the story of the erased Jewish Messiah. Let's skip over the crazy stunts Sabbatai did when he was younger, as he went around mostly failing to convince people that he was the Messiah. Instead, I want to drop you into when others started to believe. To set the stage, the year is 1665, and at this point, Sabbatai Sevi has basically given up on believing he was the Messiah. It was kind of a childhood fantasy he was thinking. He was a manic depressed wanderer. He had some success in Jerusalem, but he goes to visit a 20-year-old mystic healer, hoping to get healed. The two have a great meeting, which I'll tell about in a sec, and then Sabbatai Sevi takes off. So, a few weeks later, inside of a synagogue in Gaza, many great rabbis of the Ottoman Empire had gathered. Among them was this 20-year-old who had already made a name for himself, not only as a healer, but also as a master of Kabbalah. Caught up in the fervor of prayer, this mystic Nathan was dancing, jumping up and down, getting more and more into the moment, until he jumped down and collapsed, not breathing. They called in a doctor who pronounced Nathan dead and put a sheet over his head. From below the sheet, they heard a voice, and when they lifted it up, the voice continued, no lips moving. It said, "Heed the words of Nathan, heed ye Sabbatai Sevi." It repeated this over and over, "Heed ye Sabbatai Sevi." And then he got up. When he woke, the surrounding rabbis asked him, "Who's Sabbatai Sevi?" And he said, "A few weeks ago, this man came to me wanting to get rid of his depression, but I'd seen him before. In a vision, Sabbatai Sevi is the Messiah." Now this is 1665. Prophecy wasn't exactly happening left and right, but it rang true. It was done in the same way as others who had had visions a century ago, like Joseph Caro. They believed him. I'm playing fast and loose with the dialogue, but this is surprisingly well documented, or rather, Nathan started writing letters about what happened, and that turned into a game of telephone, and that's how we end up with this. But something happened there. There was an event. Nathan did impress these rabbis. Rumors had been flying around of how close end times were, of how the war to end all wars had just finished in the East, of how the harbinger of the Messiah had already come. The rabbis, impressed, went off to their respective communities and started telling them that the Messiah had arrived. And Nathan sent letter after letter spreading the news. He wrote, "The Ottoman Sultan will crown him as the new leader, and the Jews will be transported to Israel." An ancient writing was found, and here's what it said. "Behold, a son has been born to Mordechai Sevi in the year 5386, and he will be called Sabbatai Sevi. He will be the true Messiah." Okay, Nathan actually forged this letter. He yellowed the paper, he burned the edges, but it was very convincing. People legitimately believed it. In Amsterdam, for instance, many gathered their belongings. They sold their homes, they stopped working in their shops in anticipation. And in cities across the world, a lot of people started having similar visions to Nathan, pronouncing Sabbatai Sevi as the Messiah. The Messiah is here. Now, Sabbatai was on the move. He comes back to his hometown. This is a place that he'd been thrown out of years back. But now a crowd of 500 marches behind him. He comes to this synagogue and bangs on the door. "Let me in, let the Messiah enter." When they won't, he takes an axe and chops the door down. His crowd comes rushing in, and the non-believers were silenced. And there, after asserting he was the Messiah, he appointed followers as the new kings to rule the world. "You will be in charge of Rome, and you, when I rise, will be in charge of the Ottoman Empire. This is a new era." He takes off to meet the Sultan. The word is spreading. The Messianic age was about to begin. As he heads there, Nathan keeps writing letters. Throughout Europe and the Ottoman Empire, Messianic fervor was in the air. Sabbatai gets on a boat, but while they're in the water, Ottoman forces take it over. They'd heard about these million or so followers. So the Ottomans take Sabbatai and imprison him in a tower. That's here. But there, his legend only grows. He bribes the guards and they let him live in luxury as others visit. And around him, his followers sing, they pray, they make animal sacrifices. He calls this his Tower of Strength. Now, there were a lot of doubters as well. And one of those comes to visit. He says, "You're not the Messiah, as I am the true Messiah." Sabbatai disagrees, and for days they debate. Until finally, this doubter turns to the Ottoman Sultan. He goes over there and says, "Sabbatai is gunning for the throne." So they bring Sabbatai to the palace. The Sultan gives Sabbatai a choice. "I hear you're the Messiah, so I'm going to give you an option. Convert to Islam or die." So Sabbatai, he converts. He leaves the palace, now Mehmed Effendi, a Muslim. And he's demoted from Messiah to royal doorman. And he moves here. Now, the movement isn't really sure what to do next. Is Sabbatai still the Messiah? Is he secretly Jewish? Has he embraced Islam? Should someone else take up the Messiah mantle? They really didn't know. And the various leaders, including Nathan, they kind of work to keep the movement going, but for most Jews, it fizzles. That's the end. But for some, it never stops. And there's actually a secret society that forms, a secret society of privately Jewish, publicly Muslim folks that continues for another 250 years. And the story of that society, how they stayed in secret, and what they believed is a whole other story. And I'm going to tell that in the next video. This is my second video telling the story of Sabbatai Sevi, and I'm telling it again because I got obsessed. There was so much to learn about. Look at these books behind me. See that one? That's the Sabbatai Sevi. That's an 1,000-page book by Gershom Shalom. I read most of it, and then I interviewed people. It was a whole process, because there's new scholarship since he finished it. I read most of it. I really did. It's a good book. Anyway, I wanted to share the long fallout of what happened next. In the next video, it's the secret society, and then it's the story of a copycat messiah that fewer people follow, but the story itself is way, way crazier than this one. So I hope you stay with me. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and go tell your friends. Thank you.